Hi, Principal Matters listeners. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. This week, we're stepping into episode 447, which is going to be a conversation that I have with an amazing leader, Todd Bloomer. But I'm here right now with my co-host, Jen Schwanke. And before that conversation with Todd, we want to bring you our question of the week. And our question of the week is supported by Summer Pops Math Workbooks.Principals. When students practice math over the summer, math scores go up. What is your summer math plan this year? Well, a great way to start is by ordering free summer workbook samples at summerpopsworkbooks.com. Jen, I know I've mentioned this before, but when I ordered those books and had my wife, Missy, who's a former math teacher, look them over, we were like, man, these are amazing. So check them out at summerpopsworkbooks.com so you can get them for your students this summer. And Jen, why don't you set up our question of the week?
Yeah, so those of you who listened last week, you know that we invited my graduate students from a class on human capital management at The Ohio State University to talk to Will and ask him questions. And this question came from a super sharp, super enthusiastic student named Emily Winship. And she had a question for you about retention strategies for high quality teachers, especially in challenging school environments. So take it away, Emily. So Emily has a question for you about retention. Emily, introduce yourself and ask your question.
I'm Emily. I teach 7th grade math. And what are some of the most effective strategies you've used or that you've seen for retaining high quality teachers, especially if you're teaching in a challenging school environment?
Yeah. So I'm going to refer to a couple of friends of mine that work in some pretty challenging school environments. One of them, and I won't name them because I didn't get their permission, but one of them is a principal who led a school here in the Tulsa area, middle school for a number of years. And that school was completely transformed. They were having difficulties with attendance, behavior, teacher retention. And over about a 7-8 year period, they were able to transform that school to the place where they had improvements in all those areas. And as often happens in some school districts, his great work got rewarded with reassigning him to the hardest high school in the city. And so he's one of the leaders I get to do some coaching with. And by the end of first semester, he had already seen improvements in every observable metric. So student attendance had improved, student misbehaviors had declined. Teachers had already indicated to him the majority that they planned to come back, and this was a huge shift for his culture. And it's hard to say because there's not a magic formula, but I will say this: that when I compare him to other leaders that I've worked with who have seen high retention and quality, it reminds me of a quote. There's a book I've been reading this year called The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a great book on leadership. And there's a quote where he says in this book that the responsibility of a leader is to inspire trust. And what I would say I see happen among schools with higher retention is leaders who inspire the trust necessary for people to want to stay there. And we all know what it feels like to be on the other side of strong leadership, where I feel like I'm heard, I feel like we're together, I feel like I'm trusted. And whether support doesn't always mean we agree, but we know that we're on the same page and we're moving in the right direction. That's a place I like to be and I like to work. But we also know what it's like to be on the other side of a leader who I can't trust, who doesn't follow through, who's not reliable, who doesn't do what they say they're going to do. And that's a place where things become really toxic. So I could speak to that in more detail, but I'll just say that your commitment to trustworthiness is, I believe, the most important foundation for retaining good people on your teams.
Well, and I'm going to jump in and add, I actually have a book coming out in August, and it's called Trusted, and it's about trust in schools. You guys, research has proven that when staff trust their principal, student achievement goes up. And you guys are all nodding. Our listeners can't hear that. hear the nod, but it's happening because all of you are teachers and you feel that. You're like, yeah, if I trust my principal, I'm more engaged in the instruction. I have more collaborative conversations. My students are more engaged because they know that I am. There's a lot of reasons, but that's what research will show you. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Jen Schwanke, and I will be hosting a summer masterclass to be held on June 3rd at 11 a.m. that focuses on managing school conflict. If you are tired of school conflict throwing you off track, or if you wish you could turn those tense moments into opportunities for growth, you'll want to join our high-impact virtual session. It's designed for principals, aspiring leaders, and teacher leaders. So get ready to ditch the avoidance and embrace conflict head-on through a deep dive into understanding types of conflict, mastering the anticipate, analyze, act cycle, tackling common school conflicts, empowering others, and even confronting your own role in conflict. This session will be a dynamic, interactive experience providing practical tips you can use today. So transform your school culture and become a conflict resolution powerhouse. Register at williamdparker.com/guide. And I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Support for Principal Matters comes from DigiCoach and its walkthrough tool. I want you to picture walking through classrooms, observing teachers and students. In just 10 minutes, you'd hope to see good instructional strategies and student learning taking place, or maybe you have questions about something missing from instruction or planning. Instead of taking 30 minutes to write a follow-up email or leaving your teacher feeling unsupported, wouldn't it be great to have an app on your phone or tablet where you could send immediate feedback while also collecting data? Enter DigiCoach, a customizable walkthrough and coaching tool created by school leaders for school leaders with thousands of pre-written, research-based commendations and coaching tips empowering you to provide quick, actionable feedback. DigiCoach is not an evaluative tool. Instead, it is an easy-to-use feedback and coaching tool, an efficient way to store your notes and collect data for improving student outcomes right in your hands. It can be used on iPhone, Android, or tablets and includes speech-to-text functions. Make the most of your walkthroughs with a tool that saves you time and enhances meaningful feedback to your teachers. Go to digicoach.com to learn more, and please tell them Principal Matters recommended you check them out. That's digicoach.com.
You're listening to Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast.
Principal Matters Podcast, episode 447. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. And this week, I'm talking to Todd Bloomer about the blueprint for administrators. Todd Bloomer, a New York native raised by educators, has dedicated his life to the field of education. After starting his career in Texas, he moved to San Antonio with his wife Sharon, where they raised 5 children. Todd's diverse experience in middle school and high schools has shaped his perspective on education. As the principal of Bradley Middle School and later, and now, Winston Churchill High School, Todd built family-like atmospheres, championed student voice, and empowered teachers in their professional growth. An advocate for service-driven leadership, he's an active member of professional organizations like the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals and Raise Your Hand Texas. He's a passionate blogger and the author of the book, The Blueprint, Survive and Thrive as a School Administrator, offering strategies for impactful leadership. Outside of his work, he enjoys exploring San Antonio's amazing food scene. Todd Bloomer, welcome to Principal Matters Podcast. Why don't you fill in the blanks on that intro and tell listeners something else they may be surprised to know about you?
Thank you, Will. I appreciate that intro. Fill in the blank. I grew up in New York and had a goal to be either the 4th Beastie Boy. So, that did not work out, or the shortstop for the New York Yankees. That did not work out. The Beastie Boys didn't need me, and the Yankees had a kid named Derek Jeter who came up the same time I was that age. And so fell into the family business, which was teaching. And I'll just, give a teaser. I'd never been to Houston, Texas before in my life. Applied for jobs all over the country. And out of college, landed a job in Houston, packed up my Geo Prism, and drove to Texas, and the rest is history. As they say, I got to Texas as soon as I could.
So you're in San Antonio now, right?
Correct.
Okay. So my dad was stationed in New York for a short time when I was in high school, and I grew up in Northwest Tennessee. So I've lost my accent over the years unless I'm home. But when I was in New York, one of the funniest questions people would always ask me, Todd, is what are you? No one had ever asked me that question before. I didn't know what are you. I was just like, I'm just a kid.
Yep.
But so if someone asked you in New York, what are you? What would you say, Todd?
I'm an upstate New York guy. I'm a Yankee. I'm a Giant. I'm sorry, I'm a Giant and I'm a Knick fan. But New York is two part. I mean, it is basically the city and then everything else. And my father grew up in New York City. My mother grew up in Buffalo, and so I'm an upstate New Yorker, is what I am.
Upstate's
And I still
beautiful.
am, and I still am. Like I've been in Texas longer than I've been in New York, but I still hold near and dear a great pride that I grew up in a great state with great friends, and the kids I grew up on the same block are my lifelong buddies, and it really shaped me and
Mm,
into who I am today. And so, yes, I am a New Yorker. I'm a Texan now, but I'm still a
yeah,
New Yorker at heart.
I feel the same way. I love Oklahoma. It's my home. I've been here longer than Tennessee, but I feel the same way about West Tennessee. And upstate New York is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me a lot of being in Tennessee. You just wrote this amazing book, and I know by the
Thank you.
time this recording comes out, it's actually going to be we're going to be, gosh, into deep into the spring semester, Todd, when this comes out. So this will be a book that's been around for a while now. But the blueprint, Survive and Thrive as a School Administrator. And one of the things I loved about your book was your authenticity in explaining what you've done right and what you've done wrong. And so, would you take a moment and just talk about some of the lessons you learned being able to move as an experienced principal from one building to starting all over again where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, part of the value of the book, or part of the relevancy of the book, I think, is the fact that I'm still a practitioner and I'm still doing the job of being a principal. And I think it's important that you share your journey along the way, to share that it's not all rosy. We're not Joe Clark from Lean On Me the minute we get the keys to come in to be the principal. And there's a lot of growth that has to happen. Just because you become a principal doesn't mean that stops. And so I felt it was really important in the book, if the book was going to maintain true authenticity and true voice of me, that I really shared my first year journey as struggling as a principal. And I think most first year principals can resonate with what I wrote. It was one of those things that everything I tried to do, I was taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards. And I kind of compare it to quicksand. And, as a side note, growing up in New York, there wasn't quicksand, but I always feared I would fall into quicksand somewhere. And then it seemed like it disappeared through the years until I became a principal. And then I kept falling in the quicksand. And so as I figured I was going to write a book and really resonate with people, and try to stand out in a market where there's lots of great books out there by lots of great people, I felt I needed to tell my story. And my story starts with failure. And it starts with looking in the mirror at the end of my first year and saying, do I want to be the principal that I always knew I could? Then if that's the case, I got to change a couple things. And so I really spend a big chunk in a chapter really just talking about the failures and how I pulled myself out of that. And, I served 4.5 years at that middle school as a principal, and 3.5 years were great. So just the first year, I think that was a little bumpy on my part. And I think that anybody that was with me knows that. And I think then year 2, 3, and 4, really shaped me into where I am. And then I was given a great opportunity to take everything I learned from the middle school and transition it to this large high school that I now lead. And I was like, okay, I am not going to make the same mistakes that I made my first year. And I actually found myself looking back at some of my notes before the book had been published about where did I go wrong and what did I do? And so I take a lot of time telling stories about failure. Stuff as easy as small comments that you make, or just that you don't make, or anything that you change, is totally, something new. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that first year you go in as a principal, you sit back, you chill, and you take notes. But like I couldn't do that. Like I couldn't slow myself down. And so I've learned to get really, go slow to go fast in what I have. And I think over the decade of being a principal, I'm a totally different person as I was in 2014 when I became a principal. If I could go back in time, which I can't. So that's why in chapter 6 of my book, I say, hey, in chapter 6, here are all the things I would do totally different. And there's 10 actionable items in chapter 6 that you can take right now and say, oh, wow, I'm a principal 5 years, 1 year. I'm going to start in January, going to start next June. Like, hey, these are things that a veteran principal is saying, I would do this differently because these are things I did wrong. So I like to add the authentic stories in it. It adds my voice, but it also gives people that are reading the book to say, okay, I'm not in the same, I'm not in this by myself. Like I can talk about my failures and I can get better from them. And here's kind of the blueprint that he used to become successful. Now I'm not perfect. My school is not perfect. When I leave, someone will do much better at my school and as the principal and take me to another level. But it has allowed me to get here with second and third and fourth chances. And that's kind of the story that I share throughout a majority of the book.
Well, I heard your interview with Frederick Buskey on his assistant principal podcast, and quick shout out to Frederick. He does such great
Sure.
work. And I was intrigued by your conversation around your commitment to systems. So let's talk about Winston Churchill High School, where you are now. We'll fast forward to Todd Bloomer, experienced principal. And I'm so grateful, Todd, that you took the time to write your book and tell the hard stories and the hard won lessons of leadership over time. But when you look at Winston Churchill High School now, and compared to those early years in administration, there's a lot of directions we could go here. But I want you to talk a little bit about why systems has become such an important part of the way you lead.
Because if you don't have a system, you become the fireman of the campus. It's whack-a-mole. You are running around doing everything and nothing at the same time. And that's part of my story of year one. We need a work order. Todd Bloomer's going to do it. I need this. Todd Bloomer's no. There's assistant principals and other people for that. So I had to sit down and evaluate, and I had to start putting structures and system in place so that I could survive. I was working 6:30 in the morning till 8:30 at night. You can't do that. I wasn't taking care of myself. You can't do that. So really the first thing that I sat down and what I would say to anybody about a structure and system is having a relationship with your secretary, your principal secretary, and having that principal secretary really guide your calendar. The easiest structure you can put in place is calendaring everything you need to do throughout the week. And really, as a veteran principal, and you asked that question, I have to look at my big rocks that I am in charge of as a veteran principal: school safety and instructional leadership of the campus. And those have to reflect in my calendar. And I got to block off times in my calendar to be able to do that. My secretary has to be able to understand those are things that are important for him to be able to do. So we meet with my secretary 3-4 times a week formally, 10 times a week informally, where we talk about these kind of things. I build into my calendar every Monday I spend in classrooms because instructional leadership is important, and I can't be an instructional leader sitting in my office. I have to be out of the office and I have to be in with teachers. Teachers have to feel comfortable to be able to accept feedback. Kids got to be comfortable with the principal being in the classroom. So on my calendar, if you look at my calendar now, Monday is classroom observations, unless superintendent calls or the school's burning down, literally. That is my Monday to be able to go from there. And then I build in other things, like it's important to communicate with parents. It's important to make sure students are communicated with. So I build time with that in during on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I'm not waiting till Friday at 4:30 to write my parent letter to go out at 5 o'clock because I fell trapped to that. Oh, crud, I got to write my letter. Let me hurry up, and stuff spelled wrong and it just looks poor. So I build structures in to give me time to be able to do that. I build in time to be able to meet with my head football coach. State of Texas, shout out to Nate Shaw. He's my head football coach, amazing guy. I build time in my calendar each week to touch base with him because he touches so many parents and students. We have to be on the same page. And it originally started as a weekly one. It's now a daily one. Second period at my red bench, I go and meet with them. I touch base with my lead counselor once a month. Leadership teams, build those structures into, and pretty soon you are working maybe less hours overall because it's real clear, and your clarity on what is important is starts with your calendar and so everything is driven from there. And then off of that, I can do everything. And so I would say another structure that I have in my life now is I put my own physical well-being at the top of that list. And I did a poor job of that as a first-year principal. You go home at 8 o'clock and you pick up Whataburger, you pick up Burger King or something on the way home, and get up in the morning and you eat the cake all day long, and pretty soon you're just out of shape and you're disappointed in yourself. And so building in a structure to make sure that I can prioritize myself, which is going to bed early, it is getting up early, it is becoming closer to the good Lord when it comes to scripture and stuff like that, to center my day, to be able to go about my day. But then it's also like, hey, lacing up those on clouds and getting out and doing my 2 miles a day keeps the doctor away. And I'll never win a race, but that is something that has become a habit of mine. When I go home, lace up the shoes, get out and go. I am in South Texas. It is 70 degrees right now in December. I know it's come out later, but in December it's 70 degrees of blue skies. I'm able to get out and do that. So I think just as a wrap up, I would say the best structure you can put in place is having everything go from your calendar and having your secretary be your right hand. Like that secretary's got to be equal to you. And then second of all, I would say you have to build something in place so that you are you are taking care of yourself. And that means you're taking care of your wife, you're taking care of your children, and you're able to be a good husband and a good father. Because in year one, Todd Bloomer, or year 2 or 3, I was a good principal, but a bad dad. I was a good principal, but a bad husband. And so you can't have that. And so I have to build those structures in, not just at home or not just at school, but also at home where I'm present. And my wife understands if the phone rings and it's the superintendent, I got to step away. But we make it a priority on Sunday fun day, for my wife and I to be able to spend time for each other. And then I end it with this, and this is the part, as we talked in the intro about building a family-like atmosphere. I build a structure in place where every Monday morning I send an email to the staff at 7:30. All principals do something like that. But I write it throughout the week. I build time in my schedule to write it, so I'm not writing it on the weekends. But the first 2 paragraphs of that email are what I did over the weekend. And none of it's school related, because I want people to understand that on the weekend, I'm a dad, a husband. I like to go to the movies, or I like to go, grab a slice of pizza somewhere. Or I like to go watch a ball game, with my friends and stuff. And that's important to talk about, because I think sometimes teachers are like, I got to be working all the time. And that leads to the burnout. And so it also leads to a connection, because if I talk about a good burger joint in San Antonio and you see me in the hallway, you're going to talk to me about what that burger joint is like, because I want to go there. Or have you tried this place? And so structures and systems to manage you, to be able so the job doesn't manage you, is kind of how I'd wrap it up.
I love that, Todd. Your calendar reflects your priorities at home and at school, and you lead a very large team. So we're not talking about, and I know everybody listening is either in a setting that may be similar or may be different, but regardless of the setting, your priorities, those things that you schedule in advance, are the things that you're going to be able to actually accomplish. How many people do you have in your admin team?
I have 5 assistant principals, 4 deans, 7 counselors, family specialist, 20 plus when we added all that.
Yeah. So, and the reason I ask you that question is because what I also loved about your wrap up was you make time to not only communicate your priorities to your people, but to remind them that you are a human just like they are. And what I love about that, Todd, is it reminds me of great classroom teaching, because you and I both know great classroom teachers, when you bring those kids back after a weekend, you connect, you reflect, you check in, make sure everybody's doing okay. You let them know how you're doing, and then you jump into learning. And the same thing works campus wide. You're the leader of school learning. You've got to have that same connection going on, which also, I want you to, you said this, and I know this from the conversation I heard you had with Frederick. I know what your red bench is, but tell leaders what your red bench is.
Yeah, thank you. South Texas, 7 months of the year, it's 100 degrees, and 5 months of the year, it's some days cold and some days 70. So I'm able to be outside. And our campus is 9 buildings, and a lot of transferring from one building to another during passing periods. So one morning, there's these 2 red benches outside a rolled attendance office, and had a bunch of kids coming in late one day. And I just was like, hey, what's going on? Why are all these kids late? Like, school's already started. Like, what's going on here? So I decided the next day I'd sit at the red bench and have a conversation, really just kind of get to know what's going on. And I brought my cup of coffee out there, brought my iPad, did some schoolwork. Pretty soon, the red bench became where I was throughout most of the day when I was outside. I could work outside. It was beautiful. It gets you out of the office. People see you, different perspectives and all that kind of stuff. And then I started really sitting at that red bench in the morning and really centering myself for my day. And I could sit there, sip on my coffee, and for a couple minutes, the old Calgon take you away commercial of like, I am now in peace about my day, because 2,500 students on a campus, we're surrounded on all 3 sides, busy thoroughfare out. I mean, it's a city outside of our school, can be extremely stressful. And if I'm not right with myself to go throughout the day, then if the principal's hectic, then everybody's hectic. And so I found this peace in sitting on the red bench, sipping on coffee, to almost where I was like either sitting on my back porch or looking out at the water or looking out at the mountains. And so that became kind of a joke, where I'm sitting there in the morning on the red bench, centering myself 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'm ready for the day. So I'd encourage everybody, find that place on the campus, and that might be sitting in the band hall. That might be sitting at the cafeteria table with a bunch of kids, or it might be quietly just sitting there drinking coffee, getting ready for your day, but also being visible so that kids can see you, parents and teachers can see you. Had 2 meetings today on the red bench. And so when I finally retire, we're going to put a little sign there. The Todd Bloomer Memorial Bench will be sitting right there. So
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a
Find
good place.
your red bench. Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Why is IXL used in 95 of the top 100 U.S. school districts? Because it works. Research across 45 states showed that IXL schools outperform other schools on state tests. With IXL, you get a personalized online learning and teaching solution that helps you improve achievement, empower teachers, track progress, and more. This one platform for K-12 helps teachers accomplish what normally would require dozens of other tools. For example, as students practice skills, IXL automatically adapts to ensure each learner is always supported and challenged at the right level. IXL also provides every student with a personalized learning plan to help them close knowledge gaps effectively. One of my favorite things about IXL is their personalized test prep tool. For exams like the SAT and ACT, IXL will analyze a student's most recent score and generate a custom list of skills to help them boost their scores. If you want to take the load off of your teachers so they can do their best work, IXL can help. Learn more at IXL.com/PM today. Principals know a strong school starts with a strong team, making sure teachers feel heard, supported, and valued. But in a busy school year, it's easy to miss how your staff is really doing. That's why I'm excited about Alpaca, a new way for school leaders to listen to their teachers and support them well. It all starts with one simple question: how are you doing? And how easy is that? Alpaca's quick pulse surveys give teachers a way to share honest feedback, no long forms or 1 to 5 scales, just meaningful insights that help you know where to celebrate and where to focus. And celebration, Alpaca makes it easy. Each month, Alpaca delivers a teacher celebration kit with care packages, recognition ideas, and fun activities. It's effortless for principals and ensures teachers feel heard and celebrated. With Alpaca, your teachers will feel heard and you will feel like a stronger leader. Make a real difference in your school's culture at alpacapacks.com/Principal Matters and get 15% off just for Principal Matters listeners. That's alpacapacks.com/Principal Matters. You also talk about in the book the importance of tribes, and a lot of people may be familiar with that term, but some may not. So talk a little bit about and explain what you mean by that term and how finding a tribe has been another essential for you as a leader.
100%. Just because you become a principal building leader doesn't mean that you have all the answers, and it doesn't mean that you have made it to the top. You made it to the top of the school, but there's a lot to be said. In my first year, I thought I knew it all. That's part of I didn't know it all. And really, in the book, I talk about a lot of people that in year 2 really became my tribe, and my tribe was just my people. My people that I reached out to, the people that protected me, the people that I could seek input and advice from. And I was a coach when I was in Houston and when I came over to San Antonio, and I always knew that like great coaches always sought advice from even better coaches. And I was never a great coach, but I always knew that I could reach out to people and ask questions about how you offense or defense, or how do you stop this, or how do you stop that, or your off-season program, something along those lines. And so as a principal, I did the same thing. And Nick Saban's got a great quote: sit with winners, the conversation's different. And so I always tried to force myself into situations where I was the worst principal in the room, because everybody in there was like a national level principal or a well-respected principal. And I say worst principal, I just say, the least known or the least experienced. And I just tried to pick their brains. And people out there that are listening that want to do this, you can never be afraid to reach out to someone and ask them about something that they're doing well. Because like what I've found as principals, we're some of the nicest people when it comes to giving support and advice to people, because we're all cheering for each other. Everybody in my tribe, I want them to be successful. I want them to be an A-rated district. I'm not competing against them and trying to make me an A and them a B. Like, I want us all to be successful. And so if I have something that I can share with somebody, I'm all for it. And if somebody has something that they can share with me, I'm not afraid to reach out, send a text, a LinkedIn response, and just say, is there a way we could sit and talk? I'll buy you coffee. Could you come to my campus? One of the greatest things, and I'll share with you just to kind of give you, Jimmy Casas is just a legend in our field and just a great person. I invited him to my campus when he was in town, and he coached me through a leadership team meeting. And I ran a normal team meeting. He sat in the back. Everybody knew Jimmy because he'd been on our campus before. And he said, okay, the meeting's over. He gave great feedback to me. And then he gave me honest feedback. And like it modeled for my team, hey, this is what you do. And this is how you accept feedback. And this is what you ask for. But it also modeled for them that like, I want to be on a Jimmy Casas type level. So I'm going to reach out to Jimmy Casas to see. And the worst he could have said was no. And so like the importance of this. And so as you ascend up, as you get higher and higher, your tribe may get a little smaller, but these are the people that you reach out to. And I would say you have people in your district that are your tribe, and you have people around the state and around the country that are in your tribe. And they're both extremely valuable. In district people are like, hey, tell me about this, like this report we got to do. How are you doing this report? The outside of the ones are like, hey, give me some advice. Like, I got a job offer, or, hey, help me navigate this tough situation before I get into it. So it's extremely important. And those tribes can be like text message groups. Like I've got text message groups of people that I consider my tribe where I check in with them each day. How would you handle this? What would you do? Or give me confidence as I talk through this. And so I've been doing this 10 years. And if I couldn't reach out and ask people, I'd struggle. And so I encourage anybody that's out there, find those people. And with social media and the cell phone and a Zoom call, you could find those people in Australia or San Antonio, Texas, or anywhere in between.
Oh, that's so good. And you're so right. I know Jimmy too. And I remember being in Texas and speaking at one of your TASSP conferences years ago when I did my first book. And Jimmy sat in on one of my sessions and then afterwards gave me feedback. And was like, well, this is what you did right. There's some things you can improve. And that relationship is one that you're right, Todd. We live in a time where if there's somebody whose work you admire, an author whose books you're reading, somebody that you're listening to on a podcast, somebody like listeners right now, you're hearing Todd Bloomer and you're like, man, I'd love to get to know Todd. Well, you're going to get his contact information here at the end. Just reach out. I guarantee you're going to end up in the conversation. And so there's
100%.
no excuse for us not to be able to grow collectively. And I love what you said at the district, the state level. You're a part of the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals. You're a part of the National Association of Secondary School Principals. You and I have friends across the world because of this work. And so it's just, you're right. You expand, the tide rises for all the boats when you're really pushing for each other's growth. Anything else you want to add to tribes before I switch gears?
I just say that you will fail without a strong tribe. And sometimes the people in the tribe are the only ones that will tell you the truth. And you need to listen to that because you fall into the trap of the quicksand of thinking that everything you're doing is correct. And you need someone that's willing to push back and say, slow down a minute. Let's think about this. Let's talk. Or you know what? Go a different direction because what you're doing is stupid. And I've had people say that to me before. And that's your real friends. That's your people right there that are willing to say that.
Well, I'll put a quick plug in for leaders, and it doesn't have to just be through me, but I lead masterminds for leaders all the time, Todd. But there are lots of ways that people can connect with that kind of collaborative work, one-on-one through coaching with people like you, or they can connect with friends of ours like Danny Bauer, who leads masterminds. And so there's a lot of different ways, or through their national or state associations. Absolutely. So make it a point to remember you will fail without a tribe. Don't do this alone. I don't normally do this. But when I knew I was getting ready to talk to you today, Todd, I was like, I want to do a lightning round with Todd.
Let's go.
Because I have a feeling that I could just pepper you with lots of questions and you're going to have experience to give it back. So I'm just going to give you 4. And so just think of like 1 or 2 sentence responses that you would give to the following. And it's funny that you brought up the example about Jimmy early, because the first thing I'm going to say is, question 1, best way to lead an effective faculty meeting.
Stand at the door and greet every staff member that comes into the meeting, have some music playing, and start with celebrations. And you lead it. You be the first one to do that. Principal at the door, principal shaking every hand, principal playing some music, principal leading celebrations for the staff.
Love it. Managing your email
your secretary has to have control of your email and forward stuff that other people can handle and let you know when stuff is important. Otherwise, it'll eat your lunch.
And you really unpack that in some of your conversations and writing. So I'm just going to put a plug back in for Frederick Buskey's show because you guys go deep into that.
Thank you.
Handling a hard conversation with someone who needs to be let go.
Honesty. Don't blow smoke. Don't say things that aren't true. Stick to the facts, stick to data, and be honest and compassionate with someone because it is a humanistic business that we're in.
Mm. Okay. I'm going to throw a couple of curveballs at you that I didn't put in the notes just because this is so fun. You get an alert that there's been a social media threat, quote unquote, to your school.
First thing you do is you pray to the good Lord, everybody's going to be safe. And then you enact the plan that you've already discussed and set up. And that includes alerting your campus officer, your leadership team, help from central office. I'm going to go a sentence or two more in depth with this. Do we know who the threat came from? Do we know who not the threat came from? Do we know the student? Do we know who reported it? Reverse imaging allows you to look at a photo to see if it's a unique photo or if it's a photo that's been circulated. Sometimes photos get circulated and reposted to go from there. And then from that, you have to make a decision. And that's the hardest part of the job, is making a decision about the safety and well-being of 3,000 people on your campus, 2,500 kids and 300 adults on the campus. And that could include, sending police to the house before school starts. That could include calling the parents and saying, don't bring your kid until you come up here. That could include, some kind of safety measures on the campus, extra police. That could include canine dogs that we have. So we're blessed to have a lot of safety precautions that are in place. But at the end of the day, we're making choices and decisions in split seconds that we're hoping that are right. But we do have some great structures and systems in place to be able to go. And then if needed, we lock down and we keep the campus safe.
Oh, Todd, you're so good at this. All right. Last lightning round question. Where would you take a good friend to eat in San Antonio, and why would you go there?
Two places. Tex-Mex is off the charts here in San Antonio, right? Shout out to San Antonio. In battles with Austin and Houston and Dallas all the time for the best Tex-Mex. Probably La Fogata Mexican restaurant. I would go there. That would be my place if they wanted Mexican food. If you wanted to go down and experience downtown San Antonio off of the Riverwalk and some cool places, there's a real cool food truck park called El Camino Food Truck Park. And that's got a plethora of little barbecue joints, pizza joints, cool places. It's outdoors, it's on the river. And that's kind of San Antonio's, like little, claim to fame is just that touristy type place. And so I would say food truck park and then hop in some places from there. Or if you wanted to sit down and meal La Fogata, because the chicken and beef fajita combo is off the charts.
One of the things I've learned about high school principals, especially Texas and Oklahoma high school principals, Todd, is they know where the good food is.
That's right. Let's go.
Because when your teams travel, by golly, you're gonna make sure you land in the right place. Well, listen, oh man, I have to say a couple of things before we do our final question and our wrap ups. First of all, I want listeners to be able to stay connected with you. So here in a moment, I'm going to have you share your contact information. But I'm not going to wait to say this off the air, Todd. I'm going to just say it on the air because sometimes I have some conversations after we stop recording, but I'm just going to do this right in front of listeners. But when you start the Todd Bloomer podcast, I want to be one of the first consistent listeners, because just talking to you right now, I'm just like, man, Todd, you need to be sharing consistently with leaders in settings like this. And I know you've been a guest on several shows, but I'm just putting the plug in right now for you to
Thank you.
Bloomer show. Let's think about this as we wrap up. You get to go to coffee, have a quick conversation with a leader who's stepping into something brand new, and you only get that tiny little conversation. So as we wrap up, what are those parting words of advice that you would say? Hold on to these ideas if you're hold on to nothing else. And then how can listeners stay connected with you?
So great story. Assistant principal just got her first principalship off our team, started yesterday. So yesterday was her first day, and we've sat down over the course of talking her through all of it. Essentially, I told her, let the people get to know you, and you get to know the people. We are in a human business, and all the different things that we go, the testing, the structures, at the end of the day, they have to know that you as a principal have their back, you're their back, and they will have your back. And the only way you can do that is to be out and be visible with the teachers. And I told her, my goal is to see every teacher every single day. Like, that's my goal. And my goal is for students to say, you were just in my third period class, or you followed me to your fourth period class. Where I want students to be able to see me in the hallway and approach me and be able to go. And that's why I'm outside and being so visible. So if you are stepping into something brand new, I would say get to know every single person on your campus. Set up times where they can come to you formally with some questions that you want, but also it's those informal conversations that really make or break you as a leader. Walking up to you and saying, hey, Will, how's your daughter doing? I know your daughter's working with you now. How is she doing? Tell her I said hi. And at the end of the day, when I mess up with something and I do something that teacher Will might be like, the heck that man doing? He's going to remember, Bloomer's a pretty good guy. He cares about my family. He asks about them all the time for what we're doing. So there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of reasons for doing this, but ultimately the reason is just to get to know your people. What makes them tick? How can you help and support them? And if they know you, and they know you're going to come by, they will do anything for you. They'll be their biggest advocate, and they'll also help you recruit teachers, and they'll also go out in the community and say all the great things that are going on there. So I would tell you, if you're starting something new right now, next year, you got to get to know your people. And that means arriving early, being in the hallways, being visible, attending the games, the concerts, and telling people what a great job they're doing. If you want to connect with me, as you brought up, Will, I'd be honored to set up a Zoom and talk to anybody because people have done that for me just throughout the years. You can reach me on my Gmail, which is bloomertodd98@gmail.com, bloomertodd98@gmail.com. On LinkedIn, I'm simply Todd Bloomer, just Todd Bloomer on LinkedIn. On Twitter or X, I am Bloomer_SA. And those are really the best ways to be able to reach out and connect. But I do have a strong passion for what I do. This is year 29 in education, but I still have gas in the tank. It's not a full tank anymore, but it's still gas in the tank. And nothing excites me more than to be able to give back to somebody, to be able to have them get as excited about the profession as I am. Because when I step away, I want someone to take this campus to a place that I couldn't get it to. And if that means I can pour into them for a year or two before that happens, like, I'd be honored to do that. Or I'd just be honored if someone reached out and said, can you talk to me more about how you run your Monday calendar? Yeah, let's talk about that, because we've done that through some of the podcasts and stuff. And that just gives me great, satisfaction, because it seems like I can give back to someone that people gave back to me. Texas coaches gave to me, assistant principals gave to me, principals gave to me, my parents gave to me. And so ultimately our job, we serve, and we can serve adults. There's, I'd like to make $1 million a year, but if you can't, the feeling of helping others is you can't put a price tag on that.
Well, Todd Bloomer, if this is you not on a full tank, man, I'm not sure I could handle the Todd on a full tank. This has been such a great conversation. Principal Matters listeners, the book is The Blueprint, Survive and Thrive as a School Administrator by my friend Todd Bloomer. You're going to want to check it out on his website or through Amazon.com. You can also find all things Todd at toddmbloomer.com and just get more and more information from the great things that Todd has learned in doing.
Thank you.
With leaders in Texas. Todd, thank you so much for the opportunity
thank you.
to bring you to Principal Matters listeners. And Principal Matters listeners, as you step into your week, I just want you to keep in mind that none of us ever stops growing. And the lessons that you're learning from Todd are the lessons that are learned through experience. But as you heard him say as he wrapped up, let people know you and you know the people. It all begins right there, even as you build all those systems and categories and conversations. So Todd, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. And if you are in San Antonio, either La Fogata or El Camino Food Truck Park, my treat.
If I'm in San Antonio, you know I'm getting a hold of Todd Bloomer. Thank you, my friend. And Principal Matters listeners, thank you for listening. Have a great week, and thank you for doing what matters.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Principal Matters.